All right, welcome everyone to another episode here at the TED Talk. We are coming in with not an interview, but with a bit of a podcast because there's been a lot of events happening throughout the last couple of weeks, and there is a lot of things that will follow in the next couple of weeks as we're coming close to obviously the major. There's Blast Rivals coming up, so there's a lot to unpack, and I am really glad to actually welcome a new guest to the show. You've never been here, and I just realized this. But it's Bleh. For those of you that don't know Bleh, you've been living under a rock, so I'm not even gonna introduce him. He is one of the most charming analysts out there and has been for a long time. Yeah, absolutely. How are you doing? Thank you for coming over.
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. Firstly, love the title of the show, TED Talk. I think that's
original, isn't it?
Very well done. I might add. And also, yeah, I'm just happy to be here. Yeah, the season is it's kind of like just a month before Christmas. You know what I mean? And Christmas here being the major, and it starts heating up, and you're watching every event. It's not like the other rest tier events are bad, but now you're paying more attention because it's leading up to Christmas, which is going to be in Budapest. So yeah, just happy to be here and happy to talk Counter-Strike.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of Counter-Strike to talk about. So this is good news for you. There's a lot of things to unpack here because I haven't done an episode of these in a long time. So in the storyline of it all, we're gonna start it off with PGL Bucharest. Now PGL Bucharest was a pretty fun event, I want to say. You were there as an analyst. I was there as an HOTV representative, if you could believe it. And it was a nice tournament. There's a lot of key storylines, but the first one that we're gonna start it off with is obviously, I think, the most basic one ever. So Aurora finally won a LAN event after all the troubles, after all the months, all the years for XANTARES, 10 years after he started his professional career, actually 11 years after he joined Space Soldiers. He's finally won a big LAN event in his career. And they did that in a pretty weird fashion where they had a 2-0 lead in the final. They lost 2 maps, then they won the final one. Even in the group stage they started 2-0, but they lost 2 consecutive best of 3s, and then they won the third. So it's kind of like the main Swiss stage and the grand final were the same from them, from their perspective. How did you feel about that? How did you feel about Aurora's general performance throughout the tournament? I do have a couple of specific questions on that because obviously there's a lot to unpack there, but just in general about XANTARES finally getting an MVP at an event like that, them lifting a trophy, and their overall performance throughout the event.
I think I can split this in like 2 talking points, right? Number one, it was unconvincing, right? They come in as one of the favorites, like the favorites, actually the highest ranked team in the event. And also Bucharest, I think, was a very cool event in a way where the layman or the average fans like, oh, there are no tier 1 teams. It's none of the top 8 teams because Chengdu was happening off just immediately after the event, so a lot of teams didn't show up. But also I'm like, no, the teams you have here are it's still very competitive. We saw a lot of big surprises coming out. I think FlyQuest, for example, the way they were punching well above their weight. We saw Legacy making it to the second finals in a row. A lot of really cool storylines, and I think also kind of a temperature check as to how these teams are going to be heading into the major. And the temperature for Aurora was lukewarm for me. Like, they absolutely choked it in Malta just a week prior, where they again lost to the Mongols. I think they lost to Navi as well, where they were absolutely one of the favorites. And then coming into this, almost getting knocked out in the Swiss stage, in the group stage, right? And then you reach the finals, you're 2-0 up, and then you almost fuck it up. Almost. And I feel like if that comeback hadn't happened on Nuke, that could be it for the team. Like, what, I mean, even if they go to the major, I'm like, something has to change. I think even they realize it. Yeah. And for me, the worrying thing is, and this is something we touch upon on the desk as well. I think Yanko and I were talking about this quite a lot. It's just the general demeanor of the team. It's just so I wouldn't say toxic. I just feel it's very uncomfortable to watch, right? You can see them
pretty hostile.
Pretty hostile, tilting, Majas yelling, Woxix tilting on the face of planet. XANTARES is so tilted that, his teammates are getting up and kissing him with the head, be like, all right, we got this, right? And I'm like, this is so not sustainable, right? They managed to pull it off. They got the win over there. But when and which is a great thing, by the way, like they're able to break through that mental barrier where they just can't win. So they finally get a trophy, which is great. They managed to kind of break the curse. And if any one of them are superstitious, saying we probably have a curse, there is no curse. You managed to beat it. But can they replicate this is the question. Or when I say replicate it, not necessarily get the win. I don't think they're favorites for the major. But like, I'm talking about, trying to maintain it cool and just be calmer, right, under these
Okay.
circumstances. Because I'm looking at Magic, I'm looking at Woxer, I'm looking at ZYOO. These guys have been around the block for quite a while right now.
Yeah.
And I look at even YKD and Jota, they're not like fresh. They've been playing in the top scene for at least a couple of years right now at this point as well. And then you have the coach in the form of Faber. I just feel like I don't know how it's going to work, but maybe having a mental coach, maybe having someone who's going to help them with the mentality, because it is a mental thing. Because
Sure.
if you look at just a core rifling prowess of the team, it's pretty fucking sick. You have XANTARES, you have Wahengbam, who in my books is the best player right now.
Okay.
You have Woxic, who can be very, very consistent, who's also, you know, when he pops off, you know how good he can be. And Jota, who's just such a very solid backbone of the team. This team should be winning events like this comfortably. They should be making it to the playoffs of big events as well, but have just plateaued for such a long time. So for me, I think it's a good thing overall they managed to get this, which gives me a little bit of faith. But I still am not going to be swayed that much, because the fashion in which they managed to stumble, crawl, and scream their way to a win over there wasn't convincing.
No, no, it absolutely wasn't. And I like that you bring up the tension between the three most experienced players, because obviously as the games were going on, I was there with my phone right in front of the players trying to film a reaction of them winning a map or losing a map, right? Most of the time. And I can tell you, whenever Aurora were in the booth that was the closest to the place where all the medias were, right? The journalists and whatever, where I was, their booth was the one from which you could hear the most amount of screaming. And then you go inside, you're just looking at the guys while they're playing, and there was so many bad looks. And I know you actually discussed this with Yanko and Richard on the desk as well, right? There was a moment where XANTARES and Major just go into a bit of an argument, and then they just didn't look at each other until the end of the map.
Yeah.
And they're sitting right next to each other, by the way. They're right next to each other. No high fives, no fist bumps, no looks. It's kind of like, I don't know, you've definitely had that when you were like, I don't know, 12 or 13, and you get into an argument with your best friend, and you're like, until the end of the day, I don't want to be looking at you anymore, right? It's kind of like I'll pretend you don't exist.
Yeah.
Which is a very weird thing to see coming in from people that have had such a long career and that have known each other for such a long time. It kind of makes you understand that the seriousness of the problem is not thin, right? It's quite a big issue, right? Because if it was two 18-year-olds, maybe there's a little bit of cockiness, a little bit of an experience, a little bit of ego involved. I'm not saying there's not a little bit of ego involved in that. We don't really know what the situation is. Unfortunately, we don't speak Turkish, or at least I don't speak Turkish, so I couldn't tell you what they were screaming at each other. But there was a lot of screaming with and I would put my money that the connotation was not too great either. But I do agree with you. I feel like one of the main reasons for me why this was not a convincing win for Aurora was, first of all, just to address this, Major did come out and say that the team is in its biggest crisis ever right before the event, right? And he was speaking about it as the event was going on as well. I did an interview with him around, I think, right after they qualified for the playoffs pretty much. And one of the main things that we talked about was the fact that he's trying his best to better the team's atmosphere, right? And get everyone out of the crisis, because everyone realizes they're in a really tough spot. They can't really fight it off emotionally, and this is something that I am reading into as well, because as you pointed out, individually, it doesn't feel like the issue is really there. Like it doesn't feel like they're lacking in skill. It doesn't feel like the issues are in-game related for the side of Aurora. I refuse to believe that those guys are so far out of meta that they can't win their games because they're bad. No, they're not. I think the simple explanation for that is Aurora is that type of a team that plays incredibly simple, basic, well-executed Counter-Strike that relies a lot on the individuals. So you've got a couple examples of teams like that. You've got the Mongols, you've got Aurora, you've got Falcons if you want to. There's a couple of teams like that that just rely on simplified Counter-Strike but executed by some of the best players. FaZe Clan is another great example usually when things work out. The main issue for me, Bleh, with a team like this is that you are relying on the atmosphere a lot. Because for you, when you have a pretty, I don't want to say basic, but a pretty standard strat book, and you're not reinventing everything strategically in the game, and you are relying on your individuals, that means that you've got a short checkbox, and you're like, okay, all the players are happy in what they're doing. Everyone's communicating with each other clearly. Everyone likes playing with the others. Oh, we're Aurora. There's where the issue is, because you want to get the best out of all the individuals, because if you can't do that, then the simplified Counter-Strike suddenly doesn't work anymore, does it? So I feel like with Aurora, their biggest nemesis right now is literally their mental. I still think they can be great. I still think they can make the major playoffs. if they fix all of that. But I'm not gonna lie to you. With that situation right now and what we've seen in Bucharest, I would put my money on Legacy to make the playoffs at the major more than I would for Aurora.
It's not even a hot take. I have to agree with you on that. And it's also because one thing we were all critical of were the T-stats from Aurora, right? Like a Nuke, for example, the map they do like to play on Overpass as well was so flat. And speaking of Manja, he said, like, you know, it's like the players lost the confidence to just go for the kills, just go for the swings, you know, go for the XANTARES peaks and whatnot.
Which is
and
your
they didn't have
superpower
faith.
as a team, literally your trademark.
Which is your entire trademark. So now if you're not able to play your fundamental game, like, you know, which is what works for you, then no amount of a thicker, you know, attack book is going to really help you out, right? It's not really going to pan out for you. So 100%, it sounds reductive having to talk about the mentality as this, you know, monkey on the shoulder every single time, but it is, you know, it's not just affecting their demeanor in the game when they're playing the games in the server, but also overall how they're approaching the game as well. So yeah, Jakob made a great point. I remember this on the desk when we were talking about it. It's just like, this is not something you reset live in a tournament. This is something that you need to do every day when you're practicing, every day when you're scrimming or, you know, meeting together for team talks. You know, this ability to calm down and not get tilted and not have your mentality being this fragile, right? And I think that is something which they need to apply every single day, right? Every single day. And I think that is something where if they don't do that, like when you play, a simple analogy is if you're going to be playing Counter-Strike and you make, let's say you play your scrims like you're playing a pug, right? You're just like, yeah, this seems fucking shit. I'm just gonna push in and kill. I'm not gonna do that against a real team, but that builds habits, right? And these are the habits that you want to get rid of. Likewise, when it comes to, you know, any discontent or any issues that arise in the team atmosphere when you're playing these tournaments, you want to apply these fixes every single day.
Okay.
Whether you're playing, whether you're you know, maybe even just like, you know, playing a couple of Face-It Bucks together.
Just to add something,
with your
by
friend.
the way, to what you're saying, doesn't that apply to your personal life as well? So if you're a person that reacts like this in your personal life, is it possible for you to have kind of like two separate identities? Because it kind of feels like it's a personal thing coming in from the core, right?
I agree, but I also feel like it's not easy, right? If it's easy, you know, everyone will be doing it. It's 100% not easy, but then you got to look at the bigger picture and be like, is this holding me back? Is this holding my team back? Is it holding me, the player, back a lot in my job? And once you realize that, if you approach it from that aspect, I think it's doable, right? But again, I haven't seen anything in the past couple of years from this team where I can be like, yeah, they're going to change it. It almost felt like, even though they're favorites in Bucharest, it almost felt like a miracle run. You know, it almost felt like they fluked it or they overcame the odds, even though they were the favorites. So, yeah, that's my 5 cents on Aurora. Right. Still a very good team, but they are their own worst enemy.
I couldn't agree more with this. I think for me, the way that I would frame it is that I think they won, but they are losing, if that makes any sense. I think they won, but they're lost out of that event. I really don't feel like they won the event. Like, I know it's their name. I know XANTARES got the MVP. I know they were all happy and everything, but I actually feel like Legacy actually won more out of that event than Aurora did, and they lost the bloody final, which is a nice transition going into our next point about Bucharest. And that is, and I'm just gonna shoot straight with a question for you, because I am curious to hear what you think about that. After seeing Legacy play in both CSH Championship, obviously they won that event, and now they reached the final in Bucharest. Is Legacy a legitimate playoff contender for the major for you, considering they're starting from stage 1 again? What do you make out of their growth as a team? Do you feel like they're a solid top 10 team now?
No, I don't think they're a top 10 team. I think they're doing a disservice to them as well. But their rise has been phenomenal, right? Yeah. And I think alongside FURIA's miracle and alongside them, I feel it's been a bit of a catalyst for the Brazilian scene, where now we're seeing even Pain starting to wake up a little bit, right? And you can't count out the other teams as well. Like, you know, maybe your Fluxos, maybe your fucking MIBRs. They might just pop off as well. But right now it's really cool to see three solid. I mean, FURIA is on a league of their own right now, but 3 very solid teams from South America. And for me, what impresses me the most about Legacy is a couple of things. Firstly, tenacity. What we were critical about Aurora,
Sure.
Legacy have that in spades. They're so tenacious. They're so they just don't give up. And the vibes are like so good in the team, right? They're having fun together, playing together. I think Lux is a great IGL, for his team. I think he brings really good vibes. Individually, such a playmaker as well, right? So many huge clutch moments coming out from him. I think his mid-rounding's pretty solid as well. And they're all listening. It feels like, 5 guys are on the same page, which can't be said about a lot of teams who are much more tenured than these guys are. And also, sure, there's a caveat that they haven't really been able to do or had an opportunity to play against S-tier opposition yet, or they haven't had much success. But that doesn't matter. We're not talking about this team making it to the playoffs of the major. We're talking about how deep can they go. For me, I can see them go to stage 3. And the reason being, like, as long as they don't get unlucky having to face like some, I don't fucking know, like, a G2 and a Mongols and I don't know, like, or maybe Aurora, the best of 1 or something like that. I think they can definitely make it deep. In fact, I can even see them pulling off a few upsets if they make it to stage 3 in a best of 1 stage against some of these big names, right? And the only weak spot I can say it would be Sudhen, but he's not even a weak spot. Like, he's either going to win you the game or might struggle a little bit. But even when he struggles, I can see, the floor is pretty high because the individuals all seem to be kind of equal altogether. They are one of my favorite teams to watch right now. And even when they're like 10-2 down, right? You're like, yeah, these guys can probably bring it back. You just have that faith. So for me, they're going to be my hot pick to make it to stage 3 right now.
I would go even further than this, and that's why I phrased my question like that. I might be jumping on the hype train a little bit too much, but I spent a lot of time throughout the last week researching Legacy. And that wasn't even for the purpose of, prepping for the major itself. It was kind of like, I'm really interested in this team. I actually like what I'm seeing. And obviously, they are starting in stage 1. So I was like, well, it's convenient. I believe that they've got what it takes to make it to the playoffs. And I'm not saying, when I say this, I don't believe they're better than every single team in the top 8 of the world. I believe, depending on the draw and depending on the fact that the chances of no one choking this major out of the big dogs are very slim, right? So someone is going to have an off day. We have that every single year. We have that every single major. There is 1 or 2 big names that just fuck it up completely, and there is room for 1 or 2 upset dogs going into the playoffs, right? Pretty much like Pain did in the Austin major, and they were able to make top 4, which was a great result. I honestly believe that Legacy is in a better position than Pain to do that again. I feel like for them, the main thing is that mental strength, which is a wild thing to say because they are a team that relies so much on individual skill. But I think the fact that they were able to have that peak performance in Austin, and back then I didn't believe in this project at all. I thought it was just a fluke, right? I thought they just had the event of their lives. Then they went through that downward spiral where they went to a couple events. It was 2 Blast events. I think it might have been, it was Fisher, it was Pro League. All of these events were really, really bad from Legacy, right? They kind of look like just a team between the top 25 and top 30, top 20, top 30, which you can still make the major, but it's not going to be anything special. I think what we've seen throughout the last couple events is just the end result of a lot of work with their psychologists. And I'm saying this because I had the opportunity to do a lot of interviews with those players in Bucharest. And that was one of the main things that everyone was talking about. Everyone was talking about the fact that they wanted to spend more time building their collective as a team and making sure that there's no eye. And when you're going into an issue, that's an interview that Lux actually gave in Asia, I believe, right before Bucharest. He said it's more important for the team to progress than for someone to be right and to win in an argument. So it's about getting the outcome for the team that's beneficial for the team, and not about saying you're wrong, I'm right in this situation. I want to be I want to hear you confess that I'm right in this argument, right? And
that's like any relationship out there. Yeah.
Maybe that's why I've been single for 5 years.
Well, there you go. Something to learn from, right? But this is, you got to remember, right? A lot of these players they've never been in a team environment. I'm not talking about a Counter-Strike team environment, but like, being in a sports team or being in a relationship or having a network of friends. Sometimes you might be right about something, but doesn't mean you can go back and be like, I told you so.
Yeah.
See, right? Like, you can say it, but you got to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Do you gain from this, apart from winning a few points for yourself? Does your relationship with your friend, partner, teammate go forward, right? So these are, I think, lessons that it's good to learn when you're younger, and these are young kids.
Yeah. I mean, their IGL is 22, 23 now, looks, right? And I think he's the oldest one out of the team. So I think this is the most impressive part about it. I'm not even going to talk about the in-game part of things. And I can say a lot, by the way. I think they're very creative as a team. Very creative. And even though it's a little bit funny, I actually just wrote an article about Legacy literally a day ago. It's not even been released for Skin Club. One of the main things that I touched upon was the fact that I think even though Lux has been highly influenced by Big LAN's way of leading, because he's a really proactive playmaker type of IGL, I think he's found ways to be less predictable because he is allowing everybody else to join in. And it's kind of funny to see how Big LAN now is saying that they are giving more space to Snow because they want to be less predictable. Well, Lux did that before you, and he played on your team, right? So I think it's very cool what Legacy are doing. I think they are trying to, in the most in the most trivial way, I'll say it, even though it's a cliche, I think they are trying to build a family instead of a team, which is great because that is how you build a real team. And what you were saying actually did make me remember something, because I used to play football when I was younger, and I remember I was quite critical sometimes of some of my teammates. Sometimes. And I remember my coach gave a really nice speech to the entire team and to all, like me and all the other guys that were very critical of each other. It was like, while a game was going, if you have any input to give on your teammates' performance, or you want to say something to someone, just wait for 1 second and think about if that is going to help you in this moment. Is that going to higher the chances of your team winning? Is that going to help that individual? Or is it better for you to shut the fuck up and then talk to him after the game's over, because you can actually make it worse for him? I think this is something that Legacy have, I don't want to say perfected, because you can never really be perfect at this, but I think this is something that they are working towards pretty actively. And that's one of the reasons that I love this team right now.
Oh, that's cool. And I wish something which other teams
Aurora
probably should have picked up.
They would have been Grand Slam winners.
There we go. And imagine if Mongols had picked them up like a while ago as well, right? They could have been at a higher level much faster than we thought. But yeah, it's really cool that they've gone for this. And again, just the fact that such a young team's just showing so much of cohesion and just good vibes overall. I think not just the major. I'm just looking forward to them for the next few more events, heading into next season as well.
Yeah. They're definitely going to be an interesting one to follow. I'm not gonna lie to you, I do have it on my second monitor. I literally got a list of like things that they do in the server that I think are very cool, but I'm not gonna go into too much detail into that. I'm gonna save some of that for the future. Last topic.
Save it for the desk.
Yeah, I'll save it for the desk. Last topic of Bucharest. So, and MUTiRiS. What do you make of that? It kind of feels like, I'm just gonna start it off with a short little take. I feel like MUTiRiS is the type of guy that you can just gather 4 Portuguese guys from Face It for, give them to him, and he's gonna make a team out of that group of puggers, and he's gonna make that team play proper Counter-Strike. How do you feel about that?
I think MUTiRiS definitely over the decade plus he's been active, right? I think he's shown it, especially because just the fact that lineup with ACEZONE and UJerks and Roman Story, when that team start clicking together, that already felt like a miracle, right? But holy shit, this team's doing something. And then you had ACEZONE, UJerks left, and Roman benched himself, he left as well. And you're like, oh shit, it's falling apart, so unfortunate. And then he picked up a couple more players. He saw a few swaps here and there. And then you get these 2 kids who, honestly, I'd never heard of, right? Aragorn and Crazy. And just how he was able to activate Aragorn, and it seems like it takes a while. We saw Agile struggle last season as well. Then he's just been so solid this season. And then Aragorn in Bucharest was just lights out, incredible stuff. I think I'm still gonna wait for Crazy. I still feel he's a little too raw around the edges, but just the fact that he's able to pull this off time and time again, it's just so impressive, right? Now, obviously, do I see them in the upper echelons of Counter-Strike anytime soon? No. But they're able to, like, just be in his top 15 position and pull off a few upsets, make some playoff runs here and there. I think that's great. Again, look, not every team's going to be a playoffs team. Not every team's going to be a championship tier team. That's not how it works. But if they're able to be a relevant team, which this guy clearly can do, even if Crazy doesn't work out, he can just pick up another guy from the Iberian scene, and I feel like he could just sharpen him into something very solid. So yeah, like nothing much else to say. MUTiRiS is he's a real deal, you know.
You know what's my hot take on this? I know that we've got all those rumors. Well, not rumors. Some of them might have been actually. It might have actually been confirmed that Rain is going to 100 Thieves, right? And he's probably gonna be the IGO of the team. I think if you are 100 Thieves and you're coming into Counter Strike and you really want to give that money to someone that deserves it, you give it to Soul. I literally think you just signed that lineup. They're not gonna win you events, but to be truthful, how much money will you have to spend if you want your team to win events and you build it around Rain nowadays? Because I think the number would be quite high if you really want this team to be a top 5 team.
I can see that, but also I feel like for an org like 100 Thieves, they want to make it playoffs. They want to have this runs, right? So I'd say, I mean, we've heard the rumors, right? Game of Legion, the core going in with Rain. I'm talking about PR. Tawson has looked pretty solid recently as well.
But then Game of Legion came out and said this conversation never happened. So who do we believe?
Listen, one thing you should know, and we all know, and never believe in orgs and never believe anything until it's signed. But the rumor is there, and listen, Rain is, Rain's fucking solid, man. Like, and if there's one guy you want to have some faith when he says I want to be an IGL, it's that guy.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Electronic for a second. Sorry.
No, that's not good there.
But yeah, I think with Soul, the impressive thing is I really believe that they play tactically. They play like a tier 1 team, and it's for me it's incredibly impressive that a team with so little experience and so little firepower. Because if you had to really compare the truthful amount of firepower of Soul to pretty much all the teams that they were able to take down in Bucharest, they probably have less firepower than everyone. Pure firepower. Yeah. And I know you could say, yeah, Agio looked great. He's looking crispy. Stories has his moments. If you let those guys play outside of MUTiRiS' system, I don't think they're going to look even nearly as good as they have been. And for me, by the way, I'm just going to keep it going as a final thing before we move forward. I really believe that this is just proof that UJerks and ACEZONE, as good as they were as cracked as they were because they were playing with MUTiRiS as well. And I think this is proof that some of those players that are on the team right now with MUTiRiS, give them 1-2 more years, those guys could be the next Portuguese players to actually go into international teams. Because I feel like MUTiRiS is an in-game leader that is incredibly good at teaching you the basics of Counter-Strike and teaching you how to be up to speed with the meta, teaching you how to play correct Counter-Strike, even on a higher level strategically. And the moment that you develop that good understanding for the game, well, this is where you can become a solid player. I mean, is it a coincidence that UJerks, even though he's an aggressive rifler, is not really a star rifler? ACEZONE is not a star rifler. Who's the best player on this team right now? Probably Agio. Is he a star rifler? Not really. He's a guy that requires thinking, right? He's a lurker. He's an anchor. I think that complements the fact that MUTiRiS is such a smart in-game leader and he's so good at building up the basic knowledge in all of his players. So yeah,
I agree. I feel obviously, when you have these sort of like lineup changes taking place, there's always going to be a ramp up period, right? So I feel like whenever there's a change that happens, it takes a while for the new players to gel with the system and for them to ramp up. And I feel like every time it happens, your form dips down, right? And your performance isn't as consistent. So I want to see them. I think just played an event in the US as well recently. Some
they lost. Yeah, it is a Fragadelphia, but it was a very weird name of Fragadelphia. Let me.
Yeah, so they lost like just a couple of teams. I remember seeing on Twitter.
I'm like, Marsborn. They lost to Sigsy. It was Fragadelphia Ultra Mega Jersey.
Great.
And they lost to Energy and to Marsborn.
So there we go. A little bit of inconsistency. And my thing is, I'm not going to read too much into it. Look, they destroyed Liquid. They could have even knocked out
as well.
They could have easily knocked down Legacy as well from the event. It was a very close matchup right there. So I'm gonna wait a bit. They're not playing the major, right? If I'm not mistaken. So right now they're just trying to farm as many points as possible. But yeah, definitely a team you want to keep an eye on, at least for the first quarter of 2026.
I think in general, if you wanna learn if you want to be up to speed with the meta and with the tactics and everything like that, you just watch Soul demos. It doesn't really matter what the firepower is. It doesn't really matter if they win, if they lose.
A lot of teams do that.
Issues, but tactically they're sound.
Yeah, a lot of teams do that, right? You look at the tier 2 teams, a lot of tier 1 teams. We don't really have time to prep a lot. They're like, all right, that looks cool. That's a cool round. And yeah, if I'm someone like an assistant coach or something looking to add a few more, just pages in my strat book, 100% Saw's up there.
All right, IEM Chengdu, FURIA, second trophy in a row. They finally won an IEM.
Third out of the last 4.
Third out of the last 4, second in a row. They are on an absolute tear. They won Fisher, they won Thunder Pick. Now they've won IEM Chengdu. What do you make out of it? Is FURIA really the second best team in the world, or are they in the conversation for number 1?
Second best team in the world. I can see why you can say. I think the current form right now, especially if you look at Chengdu, where they beat everyone except for MUTiRIS, right? Like they beat G2, they beat Mongols, Falcons, Vitality without dropping a map. So very impressive. Top 3 team, yes.
Sure.
One of the major favorites, yes, absolutely. Like you can't deny them right now. I think the only teams who could, I think Vitality is still the favorites, despite the ups and downs. It's about who peaks, right? Who peaks at the right time. And Vitality, sure, they lost 3-0, a very close 3-0 actually. Could have gone either way. We had
won it 3-0.
They could have won it 3-0 as well. And also, you can't forget the map veto shenanigans and everything. It was a very, very fun best of 5. But I think Vitality is still number 1. You know what? I'd put FURIA as the second favorite. And the reason being, the other 2 teams who would be the favorites for the top 4 are Falcons and MUTiRIS.
Yep.
You know what they suck at? Performing when it matters the most. You know who doesn't suck at that? Vitality and FURIA right now. And it's crazy. We said this about FURIA because they've only had their success this season, right? Of course, we had the Astana run early this year, but we didn't know molodoy was going to be literally the undeniable rookie of the year in a year where every post on HLTV forums was Kyosuke, and then this guy comes in and it's incredible what he's done.
You had Tenir as well the first 6 months, let's not forget.
Tenir as well,
the conversation was Kyosuke, you had ZywOo at the major in Austin.
And then you have this Molo right? And then this kid comes in, can't even speak English that well. He's got to be Yakinder's kind of like his elder brother. Let's not even forget about Yakinder's story and how he's come back and just pulled it off, the second voice in the team. It's a team that when it came together, if you thought and if you said, yeah, that's a great lineup change, you're lying or you don't know anything about Counter-Strike.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I think a lot of people were skeptical when they saw that, no?
100%. But we were also, I could see, if I said, I'm like, listen, nothing's working, why the fuck not? Why not give it a shot? But no one, I don't think even FURIA expected the results they've had so far. The way molodoy is blossoming. He's a big game player, man.
Yeah.
He is what MUTiRIS should be doing right now, which is crazy to say. And Yakinder as well, just, and they've managed to, I haven't seen K-Star smile in years. Like, he's winning events now. Like, Yuri's looking good. And also, can we just admit Fallen saying, one of the most legendary ops we've ever had in all versions of Counter-Strike, being like, you know what? Here's the op kit. I'm just going to call. And I'm going to rifle. Also, he's rifling pretty sick. Like, if you're talking about fragging IGLs, sure, he's not, let's say, a blitz, can take over the game or something like that. But he's very, very solid, very reliable, and clutch as fuck, right? And also, a very, very solid secondary AWP. Let's not forget, it's Fallen after all, right? So this team, they don't choke. They'll go up against the big guys. They're like, yeah, we're the underdogs. Fuck it, we're going to play. We're going to play some balls.
Yeah.
They play unafraid. The vibes are good on the team. I haven't seen them really, come into a matchup, a high-stakes matchup, and capitulate or choke. They've lost, but they lose it kind of in style. They still play the game. Unlike MUTiRIS, who could just disappear. You look at fucking Falcons. They should have been the favorites for Chengdu, but what happened is fucking completely just lost the plot, right? A couple of individuals struggling. The mentality game is still a problem. For MUTiRIS, the mentality game has been a thing for years at this point. Doesn't matter if it's an old IGL or new IGL. So still plagued by these issues. But FURIA, I think the only caveat for me is it's just been a very meteoric exponential rise to the upper echelons of CS again. So just the sample size is a little bit smaller, but it is a very fucking impressive sample size.
And it makes the entire of the year a lot more interesting, doesn't it?
Absolutely. They would not. They should not have been in a conversation. But right now, I'm looking at what we see, and I'm like, yeah, I think they're my number 2 pick right now.
Yeah. I think the last time I felt like this, I've never felt like this for Furia. The last time I believed they could win a big event was in Rio, because it was just the major was just built up for them.
They were just riding the high. Yeah,
exactly. But even then, you knew it's either now or never. I even remember people, and I was one of those people, by the way, when Rio was happening. I was like, well, they either win this major, or KSerato will never win a major with this team in his life. And I was like, maybe if he leaves, maybe if he goes to play international Counter-Strike. But I never looked at Furia throughout the last couple of years and said, well, yeah, I believe this team could actually be in the competition for winning a major. They can be in the conversation. They can win like 3 events out of 4. I never thought that was possible for Furia. I was like, oh yeah, occasionally they're gonna win an IEM Masters Expo. Maybe they could win an ESO Challengers event, which is not even a thing anymore with the LANs. But those were the events that I was thinking those guys could pick up. Even a Fisher, right? Even a PGL. That's what I would believe in. But an event like IEM, where you've got Vitality, you've got Mouse, you've got Spirit,
you got everyone.
That didn't even make it out of the group stage, by the way, funny enough.
Yep.
For them to win without dropping a map in the playoffs, I think that's the craziest part that a lot of people overlook. They didn't lose a map. And they didn't lose a map with, as you pointed out, Yuri playing some of the best Counter-Strike that he's been playing, KSerato smiling and looking like a happy man, Yakindar, and this is something that I want to read out, by the way. I know I didn't want to delve too much into statistics. T-side opening attempts. I think Dust also talked about this like
it doesn't make any sense, does it?
He's got 37.7 attempts, and his success rate is nearly 50%. 45.5. Just for reference, whenever
Donk is the only one better. Donk is the only one better. And that's fucking Donk.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, for reference, XANTARES, who's always been one of the most dedicated openers on T-sides, he's usually levitating around 30%. 27 to 32. It depends on the tournament, depends on the period, what maps you play, how things go, right? Yakindar had a 37.7. 37.7 is phenomenal. And then KSerato, 18.5% attempts, 81.5% success. So it's kind of like 4 out of 5 times I decide to make an aggressive move on the T side, I just win the fight. Easy stuff. And that's phenomenal. Those are the numbers of... I'm not sure if those numbers are sustainable. I don't think they're sustainable. But it's so fucking cool looking it happen.
No, 100%. And that's the thing, right? You're talking about... I actually have it here while we were talking. Sure. Last 6 months against top 30 opposition on LAN, right? The player with the most attempts on the T side, entry attempts, is... Well, it's KenZoO. Fair enough, right? He's 39%, ridiculous. 38% success. Yakindar, with double the maps played, 34% attempts with 46% success is ridiculous. That's actually ridiculous on the T side. And he's doing it against pretty fucking good opposition as well. And the fact that we're getting to see this Yakindar of old, while being a secondary voice, while having Yuri and KSerato as the anchors and the closer, while having this freak that's molodoy, who is, you can arguably say right now, top 3 operator in the world in current form as well, right?
Sure.
And then, of course, you know, the Brazilian mastermind himself at the helm. It's a perfect team almost. It's like the pieces, if one piece didn't perform, it would all fall apart. But every fit somehow miraculously fit in so well. So yeah, nothing much more else about Furia. I think that just the rise has been so much fun. It's also cool to see another Brazilian team competing for titles. But at the same time, I feel like Vitality is still a favorite. You know, Vitality is still a very, very, very dangerous team overall. And I think, yes, it has been a failure of a season by their standards, right? Like, I mean, early this season was insane. They're still a team of the year for me personally, right? And it should be no matter what the result's going to be in the coming major. And I feel for them, if they're able to peak, and they are starting to peak again in the major, they should still be the favorites. Just the pieces are incredible. The only thing in Chengdu was I felt like Mezi had an off tournament, which he really hasn't had in a long time.
Sure.
I think in the grand finals, they could have 100% closed it better. Mezi having a rough game didn't help. Also, taking nothing away from Furia. I think that calling on Inferno T-side was fucking phenomenal. Some of the greatest calls I've ever seen. It's best T-sides I've seen on Inferno in quite a while. And also, some of the map shenanigans, map shenanigans, map veto. I think they should have just played it safe, just ban out Ancient. Why are you taking this opportunity to allow Furia to go for that map, right? Why don't you just play something tried and tested? They're gonna ban out Train. Sorry, they banned out Ancient.
Sure.
Fuck it, they pick Train. Who cares? He's on the CT side. You have ZywOo, you have fucking Robs and Flames. You're still comfortable, right? So I feel if a couple of things there had gone their way, I think they still should have won. And now heading into the major, I don't see any shenanigans happening, right, like that. And I think Messi has proven over the entire course of the year that this event was an anomaly. He is going to come back to his normal form. So for me, I think this five-man lineup have shown enough across this year for me to still have faith in them as the favorites.
Yeah, I think the only asterisk is the veto, because now the major grand final is going to be best of 5 as well, right? And if you are Vitality and you've got a couple maps that you're not really sure with, if you've got more than 2 maps pretty much that you're uncertain about, this could be a bit of an issue, right? Because considering Ancient is not something that they want to implement in, apparently they don't feel really safe in their train. And I think Overpass has been a little bit dodgy at times. There's a couple maps.
I think Overpass is pretty good. It's just they've been losing against Overpass specialists, right? I think that's the worrying thing. And Overpass, man, T side, it can be rough. It can be extremely unforgiving. And even on the CT side, you just kind of, for example, get overrun on the A bomb side. You lose it. You lose 3 rounds back to back. Your money's broken. You're kind of fucked there.
Yeah.
And you need to have almost like a flawless CT side. So I agree with you where you're coming from. But also, I believe Rob's mentioned how they knew Ancient was a possibility. It's a map he's played in the past as well. So the fact that they've had this rep, albeit just the 1 rep, now it's also mind games. You got to think about it. Think about FaZe with Vertigo, right? They're like, we can bring it up. We can bring it out. You sure want to float it? We can still play it. We don't care. We're better on the other maps. They might bring that out. And when it comes to them going up against top tier opposition, where their permabans also Ancient, like how we saw at Furia, but in the best of 3. Now their opponents will probably think twice.
Yeah.
Might think twice, right?
I agree. In a best of 3, that's very powerful, right? Because it enables you to actually have 1 extra ban. Because they're going to get rid of Ancient. They don't want to risk us picking into it or just letting it be.
And as the top dog, as the favorite in a matchup, you're the one who should be banning out the common map. You don't want to take any chances, right? But if it's a high stakes game and you know the team's like, they're looking good right now, you can go for the big balls play and be like, I'm going to ban your best map.
Yeah.
Now it's on you to ban Ancient, which you should, or you float it and sure, you want to pick it. Let's see. Or we ban in the second phase, right? It's going to get very interesting. Mind games happen. And I feel despite the loss they had, it makes things interesting, at least for them, right? And you have that at least that 1 official rep. You're like, all right, we almost won it, almost flubbed it. Sorry, we flubbed it. We almost had the win over there.
I mean, they were 11-8 in the lead in the end of the day.
Exactly. So I think they're not going to be as scared. When you try it once, you're like, well, not bad. We could probably pull it off again. So I think it's interesting. I think it's really cool also in high-level Counter-Strike right now, where you need to be on the top, you need to keep adapting a map pool. This is something I've been critical of teams like Mongols, for example, right? Where I'm like, guys, your Ancient and your Mirage is so predictable. Not just what you do, you get away because of how good you are individually, but when it comes to map vetoes and stuff, it can be abused because Ancient and Mirage are 2 of the most played maps by a lot of teams. And when you're vying for titles, it's a map that a couple of teams, Vitality, are just going to ban out. Furia are just going to ban out. Now you're left in Mirage, where they love to play. Now where's your home map? Where are you going to go with this, right? And I feel like that is something where the more you're at the top, you realize you need to kind of mix it up and sometimes put your favorite map on the back burner and work on something else. And you know what? For Vitality, I'm okay with them doing it. They're a team who don't just want to have the greatest season of all time, the greatest year of all time. I feel like they want to be at the top till the end of days.
Sure.
And I think that's a championship mentality, and which is why sometimes they do the things they do that might not make logical sense in the short term. In the long term, for the bigger picture, it does make a lot of sense.
I agree. I think that answers the question whether we think they are still the best team in the world. I believe they are as well. One last question before we start dissecting Falcons and then we get into Blast Rivals. Is molodoy already? Because I think we can all agree he's the rookie of the year. I think we can all
100%.
agree that he is right now in his current form a really good player. do you believe that molodoy could compete with guys like MUTiRIS, guys like ZywOo? Do you believe that he could be a generational talent and one of the greatest opers in the history of the game? Because I think right now, current form, you could say he's a top 3 oper, right? But we're talking about a short span of time. Do you believe in the long term this kid has what it takes to be one of the greats?
Oh, that's a hard call. It's so easy to say, right?
By the way, you can blame Duncan for me asking that question because he's the one that tweeted it. And I was like, if Duncan is giving it a little bit of attention, you know what? That might be an interesting conversation to explore.
What did Duncan say?
I think he tweeted that molodoy will be one of the greatest opers in this game's history.
Okay.
I want to be factual, so while we're thinking, I'm gonna open it up to make sure it's exactly
I'm usually the very objective guy, and I try not to go for like it's. I think so. I genuinely believe so. I'll tell you why. I think the only 2 operas I'd rate above him right now would be ZywOo, honestly. Maybe Shiro on a good day, but all the Spirit have been absolutely in tatters the past few events.
Sure.
He has a youthful exuberance behind him. He reminds me of MUTiRIS in his debut year. He really goes for all the shots, the repeats, the confidence plays. And that is something where, you know, we're talking about an era when people are like, oh, the operas aren't really popping off.
Okay,
you know,
so I've got the tweet. Sorry to cut you off. The tweet is molodoy is going to be one of the greatest opers of all time. And the crazy thing is, as for a lot of the wild takes that Duncan has, I actually agree. So yeah, please, you can.
I think it's very reasonable. Like, even if he doesn't want to wind up becoming one of the op goats, right? Like 7-8 years down the line,
sure,
he is still good. I've seen enough from him against top tier opposition. Like, unless like something untoward happens, he's gonna wind up being at the end of his career one of the best who's ever touched the op, even if it's not, you know, the greatest, right? Okay. But what I'm enjoying is how he is able to flip between cerebral opping, think device,
all right,
or ZywOo. And also at the same time, he's hitting these fucking, like the bank truck shot at overpass from long. You know, he's hitting this consistently, right?
Yeah.
And this, I'm like, bro, that's simple-esque. Yeah. That's Kenny-esque. That's MUTiRIS-like.
That means you're a special player.
That's special.
Yeah.
That's unique. And I love how Fallen has allowed him the freedom. Because if you watch it from a textbook standpoint, you're like, he shouldn't be repeaking that.
Sure.
No, he shouldn't be repeaking, but he's doing it. And
but you don't want to stop him from repeaking.
And he gets punished sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? But you don't want to rein him in now. Don't let his style get stifled this early in his career. Let him grow. Let him build that confidence, right? Where I can go toe-to-toe with the best in the world. Let him get the confidence. And eventually, he's going to learn himself. He's going to teach him himself. He's going to adapt and be like, all right, maybe now it's time for me to temper down a little bit. Also, this also adds an air of unpredictability. I'll give you an example. Dexter.
All right.
While he is the big game player, and the reason it works a lot of the times for him, group stage, absolute ass.
Yeah.
Playoffs, pops the fuck off because his style is meant for an arena crowd. You're talking about people cheering and yelling, and
he's got the balls to make the plays that people wouldn't expect in an arena.
But you can read that, and once teams start preparing for him, he can be counted, right? This kid can be unpredictable. He can peek you, re-peek you, and one time he'll just take a shot and just fall back, and now you wasted, like, a couple of flashes of Molotov and nade just to push him away from position. But he's evacuated it a long time ago, right? So I think that adds a lot of variance as to his presence and what he can do in the server, and I think that's a very, very important tool for a player to have. But also, he's got his very innate instinct in clutches, which is so unique and hard. I think only people like ZywOo and Simple in their early years has been able to showcase that, or Robs, for example. And for a kid whose professional career has basically been 7 months to do that against the best teams in the world, I think is truly phenomenal. I feel like he has a lot of, maybe he's not even able to explain why he does the things he does, but it's in his brain, right? It's just subconsciously calculating. It's an instinct, but instinct comes from experience and subconscious calculations as to what's happening in the server. He seems to have all of it. It just needs to be fine-tuned. And again, not just debut first, like 7 months. So if this continues in that trajectory, which I'm sure it will, I agree with Duncan. I think it's not even a very hot take. I think it's a kind of a slightly spicy take.
All right. So you're saying that Duncan could have done a little bit better because both of us agree with him.
Yeah, we agree. I think it's a very reasonable, rational take. Yeah.
Yeah. It is crazy, but for me, because I used to now I'm gonna go on the tangent of speaking about my own experience of playing Counter-Strike, even though that was a really miserable 10,000 hours of my life. I was an oper at some point. I was trying to be. So I was a lot into looking at opers, just watching opers, watching POVs. That's always been the role that interests me the most, alongside being an in-game leader, right? Those have been the two roles in the team that I'm the most interested in. Those are the players that I'm the most interested in speaking to and finding out about. I hadn't felt like that since watching molodoy when he was on Navi Junior and seeing this guy is definitely going to be a tier 1 player. And for molodoy it was obvious, right? For molodoy, he was on Navi Junior for like 2 years, and he was one of the most hyped up players. It wasn't a hot take to say this guy's going to be great, right? There was probably a lot of questions when he went over straight to G2 straight away, and people were saying he might not be able to deal with the with all the attention now, with all the pressure. Is he ready for tier 1 Counter-Strike? Maybe there was that, but the potential was undeniable, right? There was a lot of people that would say, I would put my money on this kid to become one of the next big things in the world. 1 year ago, molodoy was playing on DMS. And I know a lot of people might not know what DMS's logo looks like, what the team looks like.
I don't know what DMS's logo looks like.
Yeah, interestingly enough, he actually played with AW, who's now on Parivision, James' team, who are going to be at the major as well. But yeah, DMS was a typical tier 3, tier 4 European team coming out of Russian-speaking countries, right? And molodoy was by far the best player on this team. But he was still nowhere near how good he is right now. So for me, it's just the fact that he's got that exponential, as you pointed out, growth in his play. But even on DMS, he just had that one thing. When you watch him play, you would feel the same way that you'd feel the same way that you'd feel when you would watch molodoy play on Navi Junior. You're like, I know the level of competition isn't high. I know this guy probably does this mistake and that mistake and that mistake, but the way he's moving his crosshair, the way that he's making decisions, the way that he's getting these kills, this guy has the potential to be one of the greatest players in the world. And I feel like now that this is happening with molodoy, I wasn't the biggest optimist when he got picked up by FURIA either, because I felt like it was just a sinking ship trying to, hold on to him and Yekin. They're just going for a desperate swing, throwing the pretty much kitchen sink at it. Now it's worked out. I couldn't look at it and say, I don't believe this kid is going to be a top 5 player next year. I really believe he can be a top 5 player next year. And I really believe he can be even maybe the best opera in the world next year if he keeps delivering like this. I think he's entering that conversation, especially if molodoy keeps on being inconsistent, especially if ZywOo kind of slows down with Vitality's wins. Because as long as Vitality win 10 events a year and ZywOo gets 7 MVPs, he's going to be considered the best opera, right? But I think molodoy's got it. I really do.
I feel so. I think, yeah, pretty much echoing my thoughts as well. And also, it must be so nice, you're this young gun coming out of nowhere, and then your mentors are fallen.
Yeah.
Enough said. As an hopper. Number one. Number two, you have Yakinda, he's kind of like your CIS brother, kind of in a way, and also someone who's been around a lot, and also Yakinda.
And a very smart player, even though he might not be considered to be an IGL.
Not just a smart player, a smart person.
Sure.
I know Marek reasonably well outside of the game. Like, I've met him a few times. We chatted events and everything. Someone who's very well spoken, very mature for his age, and also, like I said, not just in the server, but outside of it, I think he's got a very good EQ. And also through his trials and tribulations, I think he's grown a lot as a player as well. So someone like molodoy coming in, where, like you said, some players would struggle to transition from tier 2, tier 3, despite the raw ability because of multiple outside factors.
Sure.
I think molodoy really was lucky kind of to have Nico right next to him. Right, Nico and Hunter, where you could see, famously Nico and molodoy, they had that younger brother camaraderie going. And I feel like Nico had also matured a lot as a person when molodoy joined the team. And for
it's kind of like the maturity that you get when you become a father, right? You instantly become more mature. Yeah.
Kinda, right? And then this guy's coming to the team where he's got people like Kestorado, who's been there forever, fallen, literally, the granddaddy Brazilian CS. Yakinda seems to have that very big brother vibes as well. So he is in a very healthy environment, I feel, where it could hone him to definitely take that step to being the greatest, right? I still feel it's still a whiles off, but man, being a top 3, top 4 right now with 7 months in tier 1 scene is still fucking insane.
And you are doing that in a year, by the way, where I just thought of it, by the way, because we mentioned some of the debutants this year. PR is a debutant this year as well, and he was at a certain point, people would say he's probably the best. Kiosk is out there. It's just wild, man. It's just wild. I'm loving molodoy right now. I think everyone's loving molodoy right now. It's just impossible to dislike. What
also, a big stage player. The guy's like, I love how he's reacting to the crowd.
Comparison was actually so good, by the way.
And he does both. And also, he played in Astana as well, right? Yeah. And he was fucking up. Even the first event ever in a crowd, home crowd, pressure's on, delivers.
Yeah.
Right there, I'm like, yeah, this kid's got something.
There's something. Yeah. It kind of gave me some Dexter Patsy vibes from the Spirit 2022 team, right?
Patsy, that's the name,
to some extent. All right. I think we can leave the Falcons slander for another time, actually, because we still have Blast Rivals to talk about. I think
let's jump into Blast.
We kind of mentioned that the Falcons are just choking when it comes down to important games. I think we can all agree on that, and we're hoping that obviously it changes for the major, because it would just make everything a lot more exciting. Now we do have them playing Blast as well, so we can kind of line that with that.
But we can do both, yeah.
Coming into Blast Rivals, that is the last event before the major. We've got the Mongols, we've got Passion UA, Spirit, Falcons, Furia, Pain, Vitality, and Tyloo. I'm just gonna shoot straight. Why would you watch the event? If someone is just listening to this podcast right now and they're looking for the most interesting storyline that makes it reasonable for them to give away their time and watch this tournament right before the major, what would that storyline be if you had to give your number one?
I think it is the all right. So you're talking about the favorites of the major, the last opportunity for you to see the favorites of the major playing right now, right? I think the only team missing is who's missing? Mouse is missing out. I think Mouse are definitely a team who could make this like even more watchable. Yeah. But still, like you're talking about Vitality and Furia, the two favorites we spoke about earlier. You get to see them and how they are heading into the major. I think with Vitality getting a win here would shake off whatever little doubts they had after Chengdu. I think winning here would definitely make them feel like, yeah, we're coming for the trophy come Budapest, right? So I think it's definitely worth watching. Likewise with Furia. Now suddenly one of the contenders for the major, they've won 3 out of the last 4 played, 2 events back-to-back, winning a true S+ tier event in Chengdu. Can they replicate that form? Can they do, can they make it to another finals? Can they take down Vitality again? Doesn't matter if it's the group stage or the quarterfinals or whatever. I think that's going to be very interesting as well, because if they're able to do this again, even if not get the win, get to the finals, whatever little reservations we might have about small sample size, now the sample size is getting pretty fucking solid, right? It's a short event, so lesser time investment. I don't like the format. I don't like the fact that we get, out of the 8 teams, 6 teams make it to playoffs. I think that's kind of sucky, but sure, whatever. Another reason to watch is for Falcons. Can they shake off the choking tag here? This is their final opportunity to do that before they make it to the major, because then the pressure's fucking on, baby. Like the biggest event of the year, pressure is absolutely on. You're going to feel those invisible hands around your neck, and you're like, am I going to choke? Now's the time for them to put up or shut up. Now's the time, because Kyosuke case seems to have been activated properly. Right now, I need the core to deliver. I can see them again making it to the playoffs easy, but are they going to lose the semis to a Vitality? Are they going to lose to a Furia? Because the pieces are here right now, and I don't want to hear one more player, guys. One more,
one more change,
one more guy. Right? Let's not do that. So I think these 3 things more for Falcons. I'm excited to see if they can actually pull it off. That'd be interesting. Spirit, can they fix their shit before the major? I think it's a very important question, because man. It looked rough in Chengdu, and also just the body language. You can see Donk and Shiro yelling at each other and stuff, frustration seeping in. Donk, by the way, ending on a 1.3 rating at the end of the fucking tournament, by the way. So, casual. So, I can totally see the frustrations. For Pain, I think I've enjoyed watching them in Bucharest. It's been a flip around, Snow being more involved. We spoke about this as well. So, another Brazilian team who could maybe pull off another miracle run, maybe make it another playoff, right? They could pull off the upsets. Remember, best of ones, major. For Passion UA, always been a fan of the this motley crew, the Americans and all of this. So haven't really had a chance to see them ever since they switched over to Passion UA. Saw them a few local lands and everything. But Major making a deep run with the new org, I think it's a cool storyline for some of the smaller names. And then of course for the Asian teams, I think ZywOo have kind of hit a rut right now.
Sure.
So for them, another event in China, they're going to be fans there. They're not making it to the playoffs would be rough. And they're in a group with Vitality and FURIA.
And Pain.
Yeah. So it is doable, but I feel like for their own confidence, they really, really need to make a deep run here.
There's 3 teams make it out, sure, but I literally feel like this is the more impossible group to make it out of. You're literally in the same group with the 2 finalists of the previous event and Pain.
So Pain and ZywOo, that's a matchup to watch. I feel like they're going to meet an elimination game. And then, of course, for the Mongols, the final take is, look, fun team to watch. I think no one can hate watching the Mongols. Even if you don't follow them as a team, they're a fun team to watch, right? And I think Controllers slotting in was just incredible in Chengdu. Of course, eventually fell to the FURIA. No shame in that. One of the top 2, top 3 teams right now. But I think for Controllers, just the poise he showed playing in front of a crowd, out-fragging Spirit, having incredible CD side, and that too with barely any time to prep, right? I think they had 3 or 4 days of prep coming in, and now they've had a week to prep. Now there's another big event where he gets a chance to duke it out against the best teams out there and get those reps going into the major. So I feel for Mongols, this is a very, very important tournament. Just to get Controllers a lot more reps. He is no Senzu, but he doesn't have to be Senzu. He just needs to do what he does best. And right now, he's slotting into all his star positions. And I feel like more than for him, it's about the rest of the Mongols kind of getting used to playing with him. Because we know when the 4 players, when they decide we're going to pop off, they can be unplayable at times. 9-10 Techno, Blitz, Bazinho, and then you have Controllers just being a stable rock, and they have a good day. That's a team no one really wants to go up against. Amongst doesn't matter what team you are, you don't want to go up against that particular team. So for the Mongols, it's a last-minute fix. So if they're able to again pull off a couple of big upsets, pull off a potentially deep run with Controllers over here, suddenly you're like, they could make it to the playoffs again, guys. That would be fun. So yeah, there we go. All the storylines right there. Yeah. Also, it's in Hong Kong. It's going to be a fun event.
I love how I just asked you for your number 1 and you're like, well, I'm just going to give you the reason to watch every single team out there. BLEH'S should hire you to just advertise.
BLEH'S should hire me. This is like a free pitch for BLEH'S, man. Come on, guys.
Yeah, just clip that and send it over to BLEH'S.
I'm like, 4 hours away as well. I can just fly down right now.
Yeah,
I could probably make it in time for the game.
Actually quite close there, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only one I would add for BLEH'S Rivals, because I think you covered pretty much everything. Really, I think you did. I really believe there is some upset potential with Passion UA in some of the games that they're playing. I did watch them play some of those regional lands that they won. They won the one in Riga, and they finished 2nd in Draculan Season 2, right?
Yes.
I believe this team has very capable coaching staff. I think TC and Munster are doing a great job with it. I think JT is still up to this date, even though it's been such a long time since Complexity and since they were at a tier 1 event and they actually had some decent results. I still think JT is one of the most underrated in-game leaders on this level. I believe this is a team that is capable of playing good Counter-Strike. For me, the main question there is, and for a lot of people that are accustomed to watching tier 1 Counter-Strike, they wouldn't really know what the hell I'm talking about. One of the big questions for me is whether KVEM will play like I know KVEM can play. KVEM is the only person they decided to keep from the Ukrainian Passion UA when they signed all the guys from Complexity. KVEM is a phenomenal talent. His individual skill is through the charts. And he's just one of those players that you see when they aim and you're like, I want to be able to move my mouse like he does. So like for me, the main question is whether he's going to be comfortable and he's going to be able to play on a high level. I'm confident in the others. I feel like it's a little bit silly to pretend that 6-7 months ago we weren't having the conversation. Well, if Complexity actually had Hauserk and they didn't have to play the first major of the year with Junior, a lot of people thought they could actually make it into top 16 and maybe even push for something else because they had some good results prior to the major. So I honestly believe that this team could surprise a lot of people. I'm not sure if it's going to happen at Blast or at the major, But through my perspective, I don't really see complexity or passion just going into both these events and being unremarkable and not taking down a single big dog. I believe they can play good Counter-Strike.
I think the major will be more interesting because, you know, of the sort of teams they're going to face. I think they're going to be going up against a lot of teams of their caliber, maybe a little bit lesser, maybe a little bit better as well. I agree. I think Kvem, I want to see, is it how you pronounce the name? Kvem, right?
Kvem, yeah.
Kvem, yeah.
I mean, or you can just call him Mr. Kuro. He's literally Vladislav.
Mr. Kuro.
Yeah, Kuro.
Man, I was in Romania and like I've heard enough Vlads. Like everyone's a Vlad.
Oh yeah, he's the Vlad as well.
He's another Vlad. There we go. But Kvem, yes, has impressed me, and also for me, just that's a caveat, right? It's been against a lot of the, shall we say, lesser opposition over the event, but it's been consistently good, which is good. For me, it's Grim.
Yeah,
I think Grim has stepped into. To quote, I forgot the name of the freaking elf, man. But let go of the range, let go of the support, embrace and be the king. And I think he's stepped into the shoes. He's like, all right, Leech is gone. All right, thank God. All right, I can actually frag out right now. And he's now coming in and looking so good, consistently, just like such good output.
Sure.
So for me, it's two things. I think Grim's going to maintain what he's been doing. I've seen enough from the guy. He's been around for a long time. I think he's very reliable. It's Kvem, the points you made, and Halzuk.
Sure.
I feel Halzuk is their Sadson. When he's on.
Right.
No?
When he's on, I believe
bro?
in Halzuk. I think in that sense that he's a bit volatile. I agree. But I think Halzuk is more complete
it's more complete.
He's more experienced.
And it's more consistent as well. I agree. But the thing is, the problem is when it comes to legacy, like I said, the floor is very high because even if Sudhen has a bad day, everyone else can't step up to the plate. You're looking at Lux and all these other guys.
Passion need Halzuk more than Legacy needs Sudhen. Yeah.
Exactly my point. Yeah. And if Halzuk has an okay event against a good opponent, I think that can be worrying because I don't think Nyx has necessarily the strong output. And I know JT can frag out. I know he can have those really crazy maps here and there, but it's not, again, consistent. And this has been the plague of complexity for years right now when it comes to the fragging output. When the Leash was there, it was only a Leash. I was looking at Grim, I was looking at Floppy. It's always up and down. Now, Grim's the consistent player. Can we have a couple more players stepping up to the plate, right? Kvem seems like it. We're going to find out in Blast. If you can, listen, he doesn't have to have a 1.4, 2 rating or something, but a 1.1 rating consistently, even in a loss or something, I think that's going to be solid. And I just need Halzuk to just put up solid numbers.
Sure.
That's it. Just don't disappear from the server, right? And they've been doing that in Draculan. They've been doing that in Riga, just looking at the numbers as well. So, yeah. They're going to play Tyloo, right? Yeah. You know what? Low-key, that could be a banger game.
They're playing Mongols.
Low-key could be a banger game. This is Mongol, a standard situation. Yeah. Could be fun.
That's literally my argument, because a couple months ago, I did watch it live right behind Grim when I was at Draculan Season 2, when he posted his career best LAN map ever against OG. It was a train 29-6, 3.25 rating. That was the most impressive thing I've ever seen with my own eyes. And I actually casted that map. Yeah, I casted that map and then I watched him play after that in some of the other games when the other casters came in. But the bottom line is, I agree with you. I think Grim is just, when he's on, if he has one of those special maps, he really is a phenomenally skilled player. He's insane. He is insane. But it's all about having consistency. I think that's been the biggest issue. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they do well. Before we put an end to this episode, and to just put an end to the entire conversation about Blast, I will ask you for a quick prediction. So number 1 is going to be who's winning the event, and number 2 is going to be one underdog that you believe is going to do well. As underdogs, I think that it's a pretty small event, so you're probably going to have to pick one out of Pain, Tyloo, and Passion, I guess. Those are the 3 underdogs, and then who's going to win it?
I think Vitality win.
Sure.
I think Vitality just going to, forge on ahead. It's a short event. I feel they need this more than anyone else, I feel like, at the moment, right? Underdogs. Ooh. Can I join Mongols as an underdog? Are they an underdog?
I think you can. They have a stand-in. I don't think people are looking at this event and saying Mongols need to win, right? It's a different situation.
No, but I feel like from what we saw over there, like, you know, I'm looking at Passion UA, I'm looking at Pain, looking at Tyler. I don't see any of them making it that deep. Honestly,
Sure.
maybe a couple of upsets. Maybe one of them will have to make it to the playoffs for sure, right?
Yeah.
But can it beat any of these other teams in the playoffs? I don't think so. I would go borderline Mongols because of the stand-in situation right now. They are the lowest. I wouldn't say lowest rated because, you know, the rank decay hasn't really taken place and everything, but they are the one with the least expectations as opposed to your Falcon, Spirit, Furia, and Vitality, right? I think if the right bracket, the right day, I think they could make it deep. I think they surprise a lot of teams. That would be my underdog pick to pull off, you know, that miracle run, so to speak.
Right. We are on the same page when it comes down to who's winning the event. I will go with Vitality as well. I think I agree with you. I think in a short event like this one, and especially considering they just lost such a tight game, but they know they played a good event. They know they're almost back, but it was just such a close grand final. I think they're gonna come into this one knowing that it's supposed to be full business, right? It's supposed to be we come in, we win this tournament, we show everyone who's daddy, and then we go into the major and we show we show it again there. In terms of the pleasant surprise, I think you've already felt where my sympathies lie. I'll actually go straight against you. I'll swim against the current, and I'll go Passion UA. Yeah, I think. But when it comes down to them, I don't believe that they're gonna go and win the event. Obviously, don't get me wrong. I believe they can make it out into the playoffs, which I think, considering they're in a group with Falcons, Spirit, and Mongols, it is.
They just need to win the first game. Yes. No, they just need to win the first game.
I think they can beat Mongols.
You beat Mongols. I see there's a will.
I believe it. I believe it.
I just feel like pound for pound, the Mongols players are just better. But if it's like a slow start or anything, and Passion UA, you know, they just get on the right side of the bed, I think they could. This is the best opportunity for them to make it to the playoffs. By the way, beating Mongols. Yeah. I don't see them beating Spirit or Falcons.
No, I think it's gonna be tough. I think it's gonna be tough. But I think my surprise pick here is I believe Passion UA are going to come into this one and they will make it into the playoffs. If they're going to win a game in the playoffs, man, who knows? Maybe, I don't know, they get to play against Tyloo or against the Pain. Maybe that's a possibility. But how things are standing right now, I feel like Mongols are in a position where if they would ever lose to Passion, I think it would be now.
It's also, unfortunately, for Passion UA, I'm just looking at what the maps could be, right? The most played map is Train, right? Yeah. That's the one they pick all the time. Train's not going to be played, right? They're going to ban on Mirage. And Mongols 100% going to pick Ancient.
There's possibilities.
Yeah. I think Nuke is. I don't know if they want to risk with Overpass though, right? Because it kind of starting on the T side, it can be rough. But I think Dust 2, they definitely have a chance. I think Mongols are 50-50 on that.
Sure.
And I think Nuke is an option as well. So either Dust 2 or Nuke. I'd go with Dust 2, you know, a little bit more free-flowing. And then Ancient, good luck. It could go their way, but it's just the fact that they're playing with a handicap without Train being in the pool. But let's see.
Sure.
I got to wake up at 7 a.m. to watch this game. I just might.
I have to wake up at 4 a.m. to watch this game, so I'm not watching this game. So I'll just wake up and I'll open Twitter and I'll just look for your tweet to see if I'm right or I'm wrong. Because this episode will go live before the games go live, so people will have enough time to actually see all of that. But yeah, I think that was about it. We've covered everything that I wanted to cover, and we exceeded the limit of the episode with just 13 minutes. So it's actually job well done. We didn't stay here for too long, but yeah, that's going to be about it. Thank you very much for coming over. It's been an absolute pleasure to have that conversation. Of course, by the way, just because it's a bit of a tradition that we do on the show, let people know what you're doing in terms of content right now, where they can find you, because I don't think you don't have I think, is the season over for you now? Do you have something coming up?
Yes, my season, it's kind of over. Might have a couple of small, like, you know, online events happening like late this month, early December or something. But more or less when it comes to LAN, I think season's kind of done for me as well. So I'm just gonna sit back, relax, watch the major like everyone else. In terms of my socials, it's official BLEH, Twitter, Instagram, whatever my socials are. If you guys enjoy watching or listening about Asian Counter-Strike, I do a geographically challenged episode, which comes out whenever there's some news to talk about Asian CS. I do it with a couple of Aussie friends of mine, Elfish Guy and Pilsky. But yeah, probably going to be jumping on the No Majors Club, you know, where it's going to be a bunch of us there talking shit with Richard Lewis. But apart from that, yeah.
Yeah, I hope you give a lot of bullshit to the bold Bulgarian dude that's gonna be in there. He deserves it.
100%. Yeah, you can count on that. But no, man. But thanks for having me, dude. It was a good talk.
Yeah, it was an absolute blast. Thank you very much. Thanks to everyone for watching. Of course, make sure you go and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about the topics that we discuss here, and go and drop Bleh and the No Majors Club a follow, because he's going to be there, and there's going to be a lot of interesting people in there. Richard, as always. And another important message: ACEZONE have actually got their biggest sale ever going on right now. There's up to 40-50% discounts on a lot of the headsets. And you can still add code TED, and it adds up to the discount that they've already made. And that one's going to be active, I think, until the end of the month, or until the 20th of October or something like that. So you can go and get yourselves hooked up with the best headsets in esports, in gaming. I'm using one of them. It's wireless. It's great. It's beautiful.
I'm going to buy one right now.
Yeah, just do it.
There we go.
The main partners of the TED Talk. This is the promo bonus. This is the promo part, which we all love and adore. But they're honestly great. So make sure you go and check them out. I'm not just saying this because they sent me a free headset. I'm saying it because I believe they're very good. So yeah, thank you for being with us. Wish you all the best. Stay strong. Stay cool. Stay smart. Keep watching Counter-Strike. Be everything that we're not. And we're gonna see you in the next one. Bye bye.